now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for September 21st. Well, we are entering fall now, and we have two tropical systems active, Tropical Storm Peter and Tropical Storm Rose. There's also the extratropical remnants of Odette, which have a shot at reforming in the next 5 days. 70 storms have formed so far this worldwide season. Going on over into the Atlantic, there is, of course, Peter and Rose. Rose apparently a little bit stronger than initially thought. There's also Invest 98L with an 80% chance of formation. And then, of course, there's also extratropical Odette with a 30% chance of formation at this time. 17 storms have formed so far this season. It's day 129 of Eastern Pacific hurricane season, and there is an area of interest with the 40% chance of formation as it passes way to the west of Mexico. Of course, it will likely be a short-lived storm, if anything, if it does develop. In the Western Pacific, we are tracking an area of interest as well with a 50% chance of development. Those chances could go up with the GFS hinting at a pretty significant typhoon. Of course, the Northern Mariana Islands should be watching this storm closely as it gets itself further organized. In the North Indian Ocean, there's nothing going on, but in the Southwestern Indian Ocean, there is Invest 90S, which has a 70% chance of developing. Could become the first storm of the Southern Hemisphere season for 2021 to 2022. Looking at the North Atlantic satellite imagery, you can see what's going on there. The extratropical remnants of Odette can be seen there, as well as Peter and Rose. Rose blossoming into a little bit of a stronger storm than initially thought, 50 miles an hour, of course. We'll see what goes on with that, and of course Peter has been moving oddly west compared to what it should be. In the Eastern Pacific, here's what we're looking at. Not much to really track. That little mess you see a couple hundred miles off of Mexico is that little disturbance that we're going to be watching to see with some short window for development there. And then of course in the Western Pacific, can't really make out that disturbance quite yet as to the one that we'll be watching for some potentially significant development. Regardless, we're going to be keeping an eye out. The chances will probably be going up to the high level by tomorrow. After all, it's been quite the interesting year for the Western Pacific, so who knows what the basin will throw at us next. Guess we will both be prepared for what happens. In the North Indian Ocean, here's what's going on. There is not really much going on. Of course, we did have that depression a few days ago. That is long gone at this point. Back to the average monsoonal patterns once again. Not really much else to discern. And then, of course, you can see what's going on with the Atlantic. Rose is looking a little bit better, but it's only going to be in these good conditions for about 12 or so more hours before it begins to encounter worse conditions. Peter is going to be one to watch for Bermuda, where a weak tropical storm could make landfall. Again, it's all in the cards. We don't even know what's going to exactly happen fully with that storm yet. Here are the sea surface temperatures in the Eastern Pacific. They look around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius. As you head into the Gulf of Mexico, those temperatures are around 28 to 29 as well. Same thing for the Caribbean, and same thing for the main development region. You can still see the cold spell left away by Larry there, which was about 2 weeks ago by now. But of course, the season has been interesting to track in terms of some of the storms we've seen. It's been an odd one, and of course we might be getting towards the end of the naming list soon. In the North Indian Ocean, you can see what's going on here, 28 to 29 degrees Celsius temperatures. These temperatures are around 28 in the Arabian Sea, but dropping off as you head westwards. And in the Western Pacific, those 30 degrees Celsius temperatures continue to expand. Some pretty good temperatures for that area of interest to tap into. Likely we'll be getting an Invest designation in the next 24 to 48 hours for sure. And then, of course, in the Southern Hemisphere, the temperatures are around 25 to 27, where 90S is. Here are the sea surface temperature anomalies. More signs of a La Nina developing in the Eastern Pacific there. Otherwise, temperatures there are pretty much around spotty, barely above average or barely below. In the Atlantic, it's recovering after Larry and the Gulf storms. And the Western Pacific, it's generally above average for throughout the entire basin there. North Indian Ocean looking slightly below average. On this day in 2005, the very active Atlantic hurricane season, we had Hurricane Rita, a Category 5 that would go on to become the strongest that there is in the Gulf of Mexico. There was, and of course, caused some significant damage near the Texas-Louisiana border. There was also tropical storms Philippe, Max, Damray, and Saola. Damray and Saola would eventually hit their own landfall points, and then of course Max was an out-to-sea storm. But a lot going on, and of course we all know that we have our very own contributor that likes Rita a lot, Ethan Bruning. So with that, that brings us to the next names. In the Atlantic, the next name is Sam, followed by Teresa. Only 4 names are left. In the Eastern Pacific, we're looking out for Pamela and Rick. And in the Central Pacific, I remember on the 21st night of September, we were still waiting for Hone. In the Western Pacific, we're looking out for Dianmu, followed by Mindul. And in the North Indian Ocean, we are still looking out for the possibility of Zingulop and Shaheen. That will likely be in a month or so. Moving on over to the Southwestern Indian Ocean, we might be seeing the first name soon if it acts soon enough. The next name is Anna, followed by Batsirei. In the Australia region, we're looking out for Patty and Ruby, and in the South Pacific, we're looking out for Cody. We'll be back for another Tropical Weather Bulletin tomorrow night.